Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome once again. It's time, ladies, to get what you came here for, and we are ready to share the ultimate toolkit throughout these next few days to unleash your inner powers. And while you're receiving all that is being offered, be sure to share with our sisters who are unable to join us. Shout it out on your social platforms using the hashtag BEWPS. Now let's get started. Please join me in welcoming the President and CEO of Black Enterprise, Earl Butch Graves, Jr.
Well, good morning, ladies. Did everybody enjoy the Legacy Awards last night? Well, this morning you're getting an opportunity to hear from a few of them. I'm once again pleased to welcome you and welcome back so many of you to our Women of Power Summit. Whether you are a returnee or a newbie, you all have come in full force to this 17th year of Women of Power. In fact, this year, you've broken records by standing more than 1,800 strong. A testament to your courage and strength, as well as continued determination to empower yourself and rewrite the rules as today's corporate leaders. Without debate, corporate America had been forever altered by vast changes over the past few years. Today's workplace requires flexibility and resilience with a greater demand for equity and nimbleness needed for remote work. Change is nothing new for the Women of Power in this room, and as in the past, you continue to face the barrage of changes with unyielding determination. The increased productivity during the pandemic has demonstrated that working from home and effectively managing your time has proven your value to your teams and to your company's bottom line. It has especially enhanced what the pandemic failed to take away: your confidence. Confidence to negotiate for a more flexible work arrangement to better accommodate your needs. And confidence to flex that power even further by leaving your companies at a higher rate than men, demonstrating that you are not willing to settle for less than what you deserve. And as you become more assertive in pursuing your goals and career aspirations, you must not lose sight, particularly as Black women, of the obstacles that still lie before you: pay inequality, unconscious bias, and lack of representation in leadership positions. While progress has been made, there is still much work to be done to ensure that you are truly empowered in the corporate workplace. Thus, over these next few days, this summit will provide tools and tips, success secrets, and proven strategies to put yourself first and to make the changes you want to see materialize within the workplace. So come cheer on the door openers and glass breakers, hear the secrets of their success, and leave more motivated than ever to achieve your own breakthrough. So I charge you, as I do each year, to take full advantage of every opportunity to equip yourself with the information, strategies, and tools you need to secure the career you are designed, determined, and destined to have. It's time to demand more from work. It's time to claim your power. And with that, ladies, welcome and be empowered. And now, for the past 7 years, ADP, our host sponsor, has partnered with us to provide this exceptional Women of Power Summit for you. I am pleased to recognize them once again. Please join me in welcoming the Vice President of Human Resources, Outsourcing, and National Account Services for ADP, Ms. Tiffany Davis.
Good morning. That was a welcome some good morning in here. I am Tiffany Davis. As Butch mentioned, I'm the Division Vice President of Human Resources for two of our businesses at ADP, and I'm ecstatic to be here with all of you this morning. And I bring you greetings on behalf of ADP, again, the title sponsor for this year. And I must say, it's 8 consecutive years that we have been title sponsor for this fabulous event. So before I actually get into my welcome remarks today, I would be remiss if I didn't do a few thank yous on behalf of ADP. I want to share just some acknowledgments and some appreciations that's so important to us. First, to Bellagio in this wonderful facility to allow us to have such a great event. To the Black Enterprise and ADP planning team that has worked tirelessly week after week to make sure that we've showed up as a great sponsor as well as a great partner. To Butch for his leadership, for continuing the legacy of his parents, and specifically this Women of Power Summit every year. This annual event is an event that gives women like me the opportunity to look forward to it each and every year. This is an event that gives all of us hope. This is an event that leaves us feeling energized and feeling more powerful than when we walked in the door. The feeling is almost hard to explain. I still struggle with explaining it every single year as I leave. But I must say, thank you to Black Enterprise and their full staff for giving us the opportunity to continue to do this year. And finally, to our president and CEO, you had the opportunity to see last night, Maria Black. She looks so fabulous on this stage. To our Chief Diversity and Talent Officer, Bob Luckett. To all of our executive committee members at ADP, and to our fellow former executive committee member, Debbie Dyson. She is one of my sheroes and favorite women of power. At ADP, our vision is for our associate population to be really reflective of the communities where we operate and where our clients are served. So as I thought about how I could actually do this justice, as I think about this welcome, I would say to you, as you embark over these next couple of days, keeping our theme for this year in mind, our time, our way, our power, I would say to all of you first, be selfish. You may be saying, Tiffany, what does that mean, be selfish? Be selfish with your time by focusing on what is happening here in these rooms at this summit. Return that call, return that email, return that text later. This is really the time to invest in you. Be selfish. Meet some new friends. There are plenty here and there are plenty more coming. But not only meet them, stay connected with them post this event. If you just do that with one person, I challenge you to actually do that. So meet some new friends. This is a sisterhood, and with all of us in this room, we are sisterhood strong. And finally, be intentional. Be intentional what you will do with the information, the insights, the tips, the knowledge that you will actually receive once you're back home, once you're back at your office, or once you're just back at your normal day-to-day. Be intentional. And finally, tear Vegas up and have some fun. So as I close, I have one more thing to ask you. I want you to look at your neighbor. I'm going to ask you to repeat after me. And I mean, look at your neighbor, and I want you to say it. All right, you ready? You're saying something I haven't even told you to say. All right, looking at your neighbor, I want you to say, I am a woman of power. Enjoy the summit.
Thank you, Tiffany and ADP, for sharing the vision. We are fortunate to have sponsors who partner with us at every turn. And I am pleased to introduce our hosts for our first Conversations That Count, What Leadership Looks Like. But first, let's take a look.
At Dell Technologies, we're not defined by the technology we create. It's our values, our culture, and our people that leads us to new ways to work towards societal change. We are taking responsibility for the future health of our planet through leveraging technology and partnerships to drive innovation to reduce waste and environmental impact at scale. We are driving inclusion and representation in everything we do. When everyone can be their authentic selves, they unlock their full potential, creating a sense of connection so we can all learn and grow.
Bringing my whole authentic self to my work means I can use my unique experiences and viewpoints to empathize with others. It's that empathy that allows me to be a true ally.
We are connecting communities with technology to deliver opportunity for all. Through technology and connectivity, our solar community hubs are providing access to education, career skills, and healthcare in remote communities. Trust is fundamental. We protect massive amounts of customer data every day. This level of trust guides every decision we make, including who we do business with. Our commitment to positive change starts with who we are and is part of everything we do.
Join me in welcoming the Chief Culture, Diversity, and Inclusion Officer for Dell Technologies, Venice Hayes.
Thank you, Elisa. On behalf of Dell Technologies and our 2023 Women of Power cohort, it is my pleasure to welcome you to this morning's Conversations That Count session. Having a diverse and inclusive workforce is essential to Dell's long-term strategy. Your engagement here today lets me know you already understand why a diverse workforce is good for business and what can be achieved when an entire workforce, and I mean every single individual, regardless of background, identity, or experience, feels empowered. At Dell, our top priority is creating an inclusive culture, an environment where everyone can be their authentic selves and do their best work. We understand the importance of attracting and retaining a diverse workforce that reflects the customers and communities we serve. We can better serve our customers around the world if we know and consider their needs and experiences. We know that real inclusion can only happen on purpose. It starts with building a culture that welcomes and equally supports previously untapped talent. It advances with intentionally recognizing and growing the talent you currently have, not expecting to be able to hire your way into lasting diversity or a stronger culture. And it excels with sponsorship and investments in the next generation of leaders in our organization. Investments in our team include efforts like the Women of Power Summit and Cohort. It has been my honor, alongside 3 of my executive partners in progress over the last year, to work with and support a cohort of phenomenal leaders within our company. I am so excited to see where and how their skill and dedication will help them advance the company while they advance their careers. As today's panel can attest, leadership is looking more and more different these days, and it's a beautiful and hopeful sight to behold. Last night was such a beautiful evening, and if you were anything like me, you were richly touched by those that were honored. Women who excelled in their own time, doing it their own way, and whose valor produced a mighty power. Dell is proud to host a panel that recognizes that Black women are finally making significant strides in the C-suite. But what did it take to get there? Well, we have two legacies joining us right now to share what leadership looks like. Join me in welcoming our distinguished panel. First, she is the Executive Vice President and CFO for the Estee Lauder Companies and 2023 Black Enterprise Legacy Award honoree. Welcome, Tracy T. Travis. Tracy is joined by the former chair and CEO for Adtalem Global Education. She is a director at American Express and the recipient of the 2023 Black Enterprise Barbara Graves Legacy Award. Welcome, Lisa Wardell. And they are joined by our moderator, the President of Global E-Commerce and Business Development for Universal Music Group, Rochelle Parham. Please join me in welcoming Tracy, Lisa, and Rochelle.
Wow, 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 wow. Let's just start there. This is incredible. And I actually have the best opportunity of the day because I get to interview two Legacy Award winners. And I get to interview two women who are so impressive in their careers, their journeys, but most importantly, how they give back. And my hope today is that you all learn a little something along the way, that there are nuggets of their experiences that you can take with you, that you can learn from, and that you can share along the way for the women that did not get the opportunity to be in this room. And so without further ado, I want to make sure that you get to hear their voices for the time that we have. And so I'm going to get us started.
Okay.
So ladies, we are on the main stage.
The main.
This is the main stage. But you've been on the main stage. You've been on the main stage of your careers. And I want to understand what that means. I want you to tell us the path that it took for you to get to the main stage, for you to get to the C-suite, and how intentional you were about your career advancement. Tracy, will you start?
Sure. Well, first of all, it's fantastic to be on the main stage with all of you. So it really is a privilege and an honor. And Lisa, my partner here for a few years on panels. You know, I talked a bit about this last night in the Legacy Awards in terms of, you know, starting my career actually as an engineer. And I went back to school to get my MBA and really fell in love with finance, and so shifted my career plans from engineering to finance. I think, you know, I don't think there's a magic or secret sauce in terms of career progression and making it, but, you know, I think I was incredibly intentional about the roles that I wanted, the experiences that I got. I always looked annually at, you know, the accomplishments that I had made and where I wanted to get to and what additional experiences I wanted to have. I made sure to reach out to people who were successful in the companies that I was at and understand a bit more. Because culture can be an enabler or culture can be a killer. So what are the people that are the most successful at the company? What do they do? Why are they successful? And that was, you know, important for me in order to understand and certainly transition between industries. So I think, you know, those were some of the things that, you know, that I did at least earlier in my career to try to build up the skill set that made me attractive. The other thing I would say is I very early in my career made sure that I was broad. So even if I, you know, was doing one particular job, volunteered for task forces, because when you think about getting sponsors and mentors and advocates, The more people that know you and know you in a work-related environment, whether you're on a task force or on, an outside volunteer board, which is where I started my board work, the more people there are that have worked with you, have interacted with you, know what your work style is like, and can advocate for you. So those are some of the things that I did.
That's great, Tracy. Thank you. Lisa, why don't you tell us a bit about your path to the C-suite? How did you get to the main stage?
Well, so I would echo all of Tracy's comments. I have some really good news, though, for everyone in this room. A couple of nuggets. One, I was not at all intentional about my career journey. I took opportunities and had exposure and just got to do lots of different things. So that's the first. Secondly, last night, for those of you who are at that wonderful, beautiful gala, thank you, Black Enterprise, I said that education is the greatest gift that anyone can give you. The second is constructive feedback. And so for me, not early in my career, it took some time. There's some people out here who've known me a long time. I really took feedback and took it to heart and took it as something that was meant to better me versus to get defensive about. So that's something that everyone can do. And then the third piece of really good news is that for me, getting to, when I was at Wharton School of Business, and getting here took me seeing somebody that looked like me. And I will never forget that Ann Fudge came and spoke at Wharton. I cannot remember her exact job at that time, but she was on the main stage. And I was like, wow, I could actually do that. And so the good news for you all is that there are so many more women, powerful women, role models like that, that you can really, as you said, offer to, be network with, et cetera, and have as mentors. So those are my tips.
So it's so funny that you mentioned the role models and the people that you saw on the main stage that were kind of approachable, right? They weren't just people in magazines or on TV. Like, they were approachable. And for me, one of those women was Ann Fudge, and the other one was Carla Harris.
Carla Harris.
I saw those two women on the main stage, and I was like, I want to be that. And so incredible. So let's just dig in a little deeper, because I want to understand what are some of the skills and tools and strategies that helped you make it to the top of the corporate ladder. What are some of those lessons that you learned along the way? You said there's no kind of secret sauce, but what are some of the things that you learned along the way that prepared you for this?
Yeah, I mean, I think when, and I've moved between different roles in different companies, and so, really understanding the business. When I think about the choices that I made as a CFO, I had the opportunity to make. I chose roles that really were more strategic. And so what was the business looking to achieve? In one case, I was approached by a parent company that wanted to bring in a CFO to help do an IPO and spin off the company and create, a diversified packaging company. And that was interesting to me. The actual role of the CFO was very consistent between the companies that I worked at, in terms of enabling growth, allocation of resources, making sure that you had the talent in order to be a strategic finance, organization. But for me, really, in order to contribute in those roles, understanding the business, immersing myself when I was in automotive, when I was at Pepsi, myself and my two little girls would go to the grocery stores and we would merchandise the shelves. When I was at, that was a bit concerning when I was at the Limited and Victoria's Secret, and my daughters were a little too interested in some of the tables in the store. But that really immersed myself and my family in the business, and it helped me be a better executive. Aligning myself to what the CEO's objectives were, and making sure that my organization was prepared to deliver against those objectives are also some things that were critically important for me.
Lisa, how about you?
Agree with all of that again, but I would say for me, Whether you're in the same company, you should definitely seek different opportunities. I was at RLJ for 13 years, but my job changed, sort of every couple of years as we bought new businesses and things like that. So you can do it in the same company, you can do it at different companies, but the key is that training for what is it that the CEO or the leader of that organization needs, because what I would say every day, in my case it was first RLJ and then Adtalem, but I would say every day, what are the 3 most important things that I need to do today to move the business, right? What are those most important things? And then how can I make the CEO's job easier today instead of harder today? And the reason that that is so important is because when I became a CEO, I would say, who are the people in this organization who are making my life easier? And who are the people who are making my life harder? And it sounds very simple, but I have to tell you, if you can look through that lens, those of you who've heard me or know me know I talk about 2 things: belonging in the room, look at this room that we own, and then the other is making sure that you are just aligned with what you need to do, not just you've got to do your current job well. You have to do your current role well, but then you have to say, let me look through the lens and see how that fits in, to Tracy's point, to the bigger picture. So those are the 2 things I think that I didn't get right all the time. I also take risk, and it's important to work in a team and for a person that does not punish risk-take. I don't mean risk-taking, sort of financial risk-taking. I mean taking initiative and learning from those things, because not everything's going to go well, and that's okay. But if you raise your hand and say, I understand what happened, or how we can learn from that as an organization and as a team, senior executives take notice of that. Nobody's perfect, and that's okay.
So I love what you all are saying, and when I think about my own career, there's a few things I would add, just to complement where you all were. Is number 1, know your job better than anyone. Number 2, learn as much as you can, because no one can take that from you. I like to say, put all the things you learn in your tool chest, because you never know when you have to pull one out again.
That's right.
And I've had the benefit, like you both, of just being in lots of different industries. And so you walk into a new industry and you have to learn the industry. Mm-hmm. You walk into a new company, you have to learn that company. And most importantly, in learning that company, understanding how you all make money.
That's right.
Like getting to how you make money will help you every day in making sure you were doing the right things.
That's right.
And ensuring that the work that you do every day ladders up to the goals of the company.
I love that. Mm-hmm.
If you don't see a way that your job ladders up to the goals of the company, reevaluate the work that you're doing. So, I'll take a clap. I love a clap.
Yeah.
I love a clap. All right.
You woke 'em up.
This morning. All right, so Lisa.
Yes.
I know it hasn't been easy. I also know that there are no rose petals thrown at your feet every day. So tell us, what are some of the challenges that you faced at this level of your career, and how are you able to navigate those challenges?
Yeah, so I think I'll start just by talking about the role of public company CEO, because it is unique and different in some senses, certainly in terms of the number of stakeholders you have. But I think the challenges are, for me in that journey, where I thought that I knew what the job was, because I had been on public boards. I had senior executive colleagues and friends, and I had worked as a chief operating officer. So the first challenge was and I was the audit chair. I came off with the board, so I thought I knew everything there was to know about Adtalem Global Education, and that's just not the case. And then the challenge becomes harder because the day that you step into the CEO role, public or private for that matter, your relationship with everyone around you changes, and you no longer have peers. And that doesn't just happen at the CEO level. That will happen as you progress in your career. The people who are your peers will change, and sometimes you end up, your peers end up reporting to you as you progress and go into different places. And so that's a challenge, and you have to really make sure that you're keeping your kind of inner, transparent, authentic self as you go through the actual operating of the business. I'm also a numbers person. I enjoy the financial piece and very clearly understand the revenue triggers and the cost, or I should say the revenue, avenues and the cost triggers. So what you can control and what you can't control, said differently. So I think that's the first challenge. And that's where this personal board of directors, which I absolutely got from Michelle but used last night, because I now have one, is key. You can have that at any level. The second challenge is that as you progress in your career, you have less time to take inputs and get information, and you have to depend more on other people on your team or in the organization to make sure that they're giving you not just the information that they want you to have, but all of the information that you need. So informational asymmetry in your role, someone knowing things that you should know, it happens to all of us, right, on teams and in our jobs. That is a challenge that you need to always sort of have at the forefront and make sure that you are over-prepared. And I would say the third challenge is, at the time that I came into that role, Ursula Burns, I think, had just stepped down, so I was the only one at the time, black woman that is. Obviously now we have Roz, we have Tia, TIA, but it's really lonely. People are watching to see how you operate, and are you in a good mood, and are you feeling good about what's going on? There's so many inputs, and that's something that you can practice in your teams and in your role, no matter what it is at this point, because it's important. And then the last thing I would say in terms of challenges, because I'm trying to think about those things that all of you are sitting here and navigating today. Several people have said it, Butch said it this morning, we have made great strides, whether you call it diversity, whether you call it black women, whether you call it climbing that career ladder, but I want to make sure everyone here understands we still must be over-prepared, always. And if, yeah, sure. And so I want everybody to grab onto those things about diversity, equity, inclusion that are good. I am absolutely for DEI. I made sure that my management team, my board, et cetera, were diverse, but I am telling you right now, part of what it's doing to black women, and particularly younger black women, and I'd like to get I'm officially old, I got the Legacy Award, so I can use the word younger. I'd like you guys' thoughts on this is sort of almost tricking people into think that, yes, you can bring your authentic self to work, but there's some things that you should not be bringing to work, and nobody's telling you.
Facts.
And I'll just go one point further, and then I'll shut up. They're not telling you, when you get to work, they're not telling you, they're just noting it and saying, yeah, that is something that we don't want in our C-suite. I'm just telling you the truth. So I think those are the challenges.
Thank you. And so you glossed over that, so I'm just going to say something else.
I was
No, not the authentic self part. No, she was pretty clear on that. But when Lisa joined Adtalem as the CEO of the company, she was the only black woman CEO of a public company in the Fortune 1000. When you talk about busting through the glass ceiling, that's what that looks like. You've had to break through that glass ceiling too. Yeah. And I know for sure, as a CFO of a public company, that there are not rose petals thrown at your feet every day. I know that for sure. Tell us some of the challenges that you had to face getting to that, in that C-suite role.
Yeah. So no, I've been a public company CFO. My first CFO role was 22 years ago, so I've been a public company CFO for a long,
That's what I'm
long
saying.
time.
You broke through.
You know, I would say, and I want to pick up on something that Lisa said that's so important in terms of constructive feedback. Because oftentimes, you know, when a promotion happens and we don't get it, you know, sometimes we don't get the kind of feedback that we need in order to understand what we need to do differently. Sometimes people aren't comfortable giving us feedback. And so soliciting feedback, and she used the word constructive feedback, and you need to be able to balance and understand what's constructive feedback versus destructive feedback too. But getting feedback is incredibly important. And so, you know, I remember when I was in a divisional CFO role, and I was speaking and getting my feedback from my boss, who I asked for, and he said, you know, you're doing a great job. He says, but your colleagues find you a little intimidating.
We've heard that before.
Yeah, where have you heard
Raise
that
your hand if you've heard that before.
Yeah. Like, okay, well, what do you mean by that? Can you give me an example? And always ask the follow-up questions. Can you give me an example? And he said, well, we were in a meeting a few weeks ago, and, you know, and out in one of our markets, and, you know, you were really tough on Joe. It's like, okay, all right. I said, well, tell me more. And so, you know, we went into it a little bit more. And I said, well, you know, Dan, who was in the meeting, was also tough on Jeff. And you said that he was exhibiting leadership. But I'm intimidating. What's the difference between me and him? And so, you know, I've always tried to approach unconscious bias as unconscious and unintentional. And tried to point out where there were differences in how, you know, how I might be perceived or how my behavior might be perceived relative to a non-black female colleague. And I would say, you know, for both Lisa and I, given the roles that we've been in CEO and CFO, you know, you not only have the color bias, you have the gender bias. And so, it's, you know, it has not been easy. I remember when I walked into my first investor meeting and walked up on the stage, and I had just been newly appointed at this company as the CFO, in a room full of white men, investors, and my colleagues, all white men, CFOs, and I walked on the stage with one of our CEOs, and there was an audible gasp in the room. And I could only smile. And so, you know, Lisa's other point in terms of making sure, because I always knew, and I said this in the video last night, that how I did my job, which was always going to have to be better than others, but how I did my job was really important for the people coming behind me doing this job. And there still aren't enough. There are more. I think there were 4% women CFOs when I started. 4% women CFOs. So you can imagine African American CFOs. You know, so those are some of the challenges that you know I navigated through. Really, just trying to make sure that I was better, trying to make sure that I didn't let any unintended bias go by without at least challenging it constructively and trying to explain you know, that it might in fact have been unconscious bias. You know, we do quite a bit of unconscious bias training at Estee Lauder companies. Because one of the things that we recognize is, you know, it's one thing to up your recruitment, which we also have done, but if you don't create the environment, if you don't train everybody else on, you know, on bias, you're not going to create an environment where people feel comfortable contributing, and you're going to have turnover. And so that's incredibly important. You know, we talk, you know, a lot about, you know, diversity and equity and inclusion. I'm a big believer in belonging. Belonging is a higher standard. And so not only do you have a seat at the table, but you are included as part of the table and as part of the discussion and a contributor. And so, you know, that is something that, you know, we continue to reinforce at Estee Lauder Companies.
Thank you both. Lisa, I want to ask you this. What do Black women executives need to do, and what do organizations need to do to ensure that we have equitable representation at the most senior levels of corporate leadership?
Yeah, so I think, let me start with Black women and what we need to do. So, and we are progressing in this area, but we have got to do a better job of networking amongst ourselves, but then also broadening our network to those folks who make decisions, right? And those folks are not Black women in lots of cases. And so there's a balance between those nurturing, networking, mentor relationships. I mean, I remember once my CFO quit 2 weeks before earnings, and I called her. I thought it was bad. She talked me down. That's the nurturing, networking, mentoring. But then, I just remembered that made me mad. White man, no, I'm just kidding. But we just have to do better. I tried to spend, and I know you do too, because people tell me this, a lot of time doing that. I think for companies, there's sort of 3 or 4 key things. One is we've got to get past this notion that one is enough. I have my Black woman. She's Black, right? We just have to get past that. We have to get past that on corporate boards, because this dirty little secret, boards are diversifying, and they're looking for highly qualified people, but they're focusing on diversity. But once they get it, they're not calling y'all anymore, right? That has to change. Companies need to do that. I think the belonging piece is key, and that you have to have people who are in the room that are making decisions in order to drive the senior level. So you've got to have people on your board. Boards hire and fire CEOs, period, full stop. They pretty much hire and fire CFOs because they're putting the CEO in the seat, right? And I think that if companies could just embrace not just the belonging throughout the organization and the culture, but also making meaningful change beyond one Black woman, one Black man, maybe not both in the same room. I mean, it's, it is, and I'll stop rambling after this, but I'll just tell you, I was the CEO of Adtalem for 5 years. I had a ready now successor. He had been passed over for CEO somewhere else, and he needed to get P&L experience. I gave him a P&L. This is a Black man. And we were going to lose him. And I said, I'm going to have this internal succession with the board. We're going to plan it. And then I'm going to step out of the seat, which I did. And I was the exec chairman for a year. He didn't need me for a year. He got it. But we have to start doing those things that affect us personally in order to move the needle for the community.
Awesome. Tracy. Tracy, what do Black women and what do organizations need to do to make sure that at the most senior levels in corporate leadership there's representation?
Yeah, I mean, I talked a little bit about this last night. So, I mean, when you think about ESG and you think about, some of the reporting that companies have to do now, we're in a unique time where certainly since George Floyd, companies feel more responsible. There's more pressure on companies as it relates to diversity. They are reaching out, hopefully, many companies to some of the internal networks, and so now's the time to speak up, for us to speak up. And so utilizing ESG groups to provide input into companies and how they can actually recruit better, where to recruit, and also again to create a culture internally to retain. We can help each other out as well. I mean, if we are in a senior position, or even a mid-level position, and there's a junior, one of us in the room, and they're not being called on, or they're not getting the attention, as long as they're comfortable, ask them what their opinion is and ask them to contribute. Now, when you're in those rooms, you need to be prepared. If you're going to speak up, be informed. But if we sit in a room and we're just there, and we're actually not contributing or not seen to be contributing, you're not going to get ahead. And we can help each other out, tremendously in that way. I know Lisa feels this responsibility as I do as well on the corporate boards, in the executive room. Why not Darlene? Why not Mary? So don't, because we're not top of mind for some of these positions, and certainly not some of the more traditional male positions.
And, Trace, and let me just, sorry to interrupt, but if you are in this room, there are people that are junior to you or earlier in their journey than you are. So all of us in this room, I absolutely know, can do that for other people.
So, ladies, we have just a minute. Ooh. Let's call it a minute and a half.
They might not drag us off the main stage.
Well, we're on the main stage, but we do want to give the ladies in the audience a couple opportunities to ask questions. And so, you've had these incredible journeys, these amazing experiences, these legendary, legacy-level careers. What are some pearls of wisdom that have guided you along the way? Tracy?
Don't let anybody make you feel that you don't belong. Resilience is incredibly important. There have been many mistakes that I've made throughout my career. Many times that things didn't go the way that I thought, and I self-reflect on that, dust myself off, and keep going. And it's the same if you run into roadblocks at work. Figure out how you can get around those roadblocks. Use your network. If you don't have one, create one here, and to bounce things off of. But you deserve to be and have the career that you want, and don't let anybody deter you from that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just summarize because I want to get to the audience too, but I agree, don't deter. Don't spend another second analyzing and thinking about why you are judged differently, why you have to do more work on the team, why Jeff doesn't, because that is there. And yes, the culture is changing, but you mentioned George Floyd. There are many people in this country and globally who thought that was the first black man who has been killed by the police, murdered by the police, right? We are all in different stages of that. Companies are, it was a wake-up call, but this has been going on forever. Don't waste your time on that. Think about who's the person, who are the people who can help me seek that feedback, because many people won't give it unless you ask. And when you do, get the detail to help you really use it, and brush yourself off. I have made so many mistakes. We don't even have a panel enough time to talk about how many mistakes we make. Just don't.
All right, so we're going to let the audience ask a couple of questions. And so, I have a...
Yeah, I can't see you. Oh.
Hi, good morning. I'm Juanita Hanley. I'm from ADP. Question for Tracy. In the conversation that you had, and you mentioned that Jeff was exhibiting behavior, what made you different? I wanted to know what the answer was that handled that. And then for Lisa, you mentioned there are certain things you don't bring to work, but they won't tell you what they are. Could you give us an example of one? Thank you.
Okay, no, great.
Great question.
So it's a great question. So I've done that a number of times throughout my career. The answer was, he didn't have one. And so it was an aha moment for him that he was judging my behavior differently than he was judging my colleagues' behavior. So that's what I mean when I say, sometimes it really is unintended bias. And so to the extent that you can do that without making the other people feel defensive, or that you're putting them on the spot. This was a one-on-one conversation. But that was important to point out. So the next time we're in a situation, he's thinking, okay, well, all right, I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable here, but is it because of, what she's actually doing, or is it because of how she looks, or she's a she? So.
Yeah, so it depends obviously on the company, but this is where we haven't talked about listening and observation skills very much. I should have brought that up before. This is where observing the culture that you're going into makes a difference, right? So if there is no dress code and you're comfortable in crop tops, but everybody else has on a business suit, that doesn't mean that I'm saying don't wear a crop top. I'm saying if you want to be a part of that culture in the way that that culture works, I don't mean not speaking out. I mean making sure that you are observant of those people who are successful in this company. What are they doing? And that includes everything from appearance to how people conduct themselves in the workplace. And that may not be popular, but it happens to be factual.
Next question.
Hi, my name is Devin Pederica. I am in senior leadership, and I am the only token child in a global company of 57,000 employees at my level and up. Wow. So my question for you is, how do you position yourself to gain more insight, skill set for you to be prepared for the next level when you are that token child that they appreciate because I'm the Regional Diversity and Inclusion Manager, so they check their box. But it's challenging for me to be able to say, hey, I want P&L experience. I want to be considered for other roles. How do you position yourself? Because, I don't necessarily want to jump companies every 5 seconds.
I got it. First of all, constructive feedback. Don't ever call yourself the token child again. Let me tell you something. If you are the only one, and I don't know what company, there's 57,000 people, that means that you really have the skills to do that job, because clearly they wouldn't have put you in it. So that's the first. The second thing that I would say is exactly what Tracy said. First of all, you've got some optionality there because you can bring ideas and things to the company in that role, if I'm understanding correctly. But task force, making sure that you know at least 3 people on that next level up, senior people who would be helpful. And sometimes you have to go through a few before you realize, okay, not everybody's there to help y'all, just so you know. That is not their goal. So you find the ones that are, and like Rochelle said, learn everything. But you are far from being a token child, and congratulations for getting there.
Good morning, ladies. Thank you so much for this talk. It's very necessary, very important, and I appreciate everything that you shared with us this morning. My name is Adrienne Vifus, the Kettle Queen, and my question was, when you've gotten to the point of having a manager or a supervisor that you clearly know is not going to support your progress or your movement up, when and how do you know what next move to make? Because it's scary sometimes when you think about trying to start over.
Yeah. So hopefully you can, and again, this is where, broadening your network in terms of the people that you interact with is important. So, you can certainly express an interest maybe in going into another area if you have, that broader network of support within the company. I mean, I've had this in various points in my career, fortunately only a couple. In one case, I moved to another department. In another case, I left the company. So, if there wasn't anybody that was going to support me in progressing, and I knew I had the skills to progress, I'm going to try everything I can because it is scary to go someplace else. But fundamentally, you need to make that choice in terms of whether or not you're comfortable staying in that situation, or or you need to leave and do something different.
And the only thing I'll add there, and it's a compliment to what Tracy's saying, is your direct manager may not be the person for you, but that doesn't mean that the person for you isn't already there. So just keep building relationships, whether it's peers of your direct manager, whether it's your direct manager's boss. Like, you build those relationships and demonstrate what you bring to the company. So it doesn't hurt to shoot off an email on a Friday that just talks about some of the key accomplishments that you've had over the last few weeks. Maybe send it to your boss's boss and your boss, or just letting people know what you have done for the company. This isn't about bragging about what you did, it's about what you did for the company. There are ways that you can do this with being in your role, not getting that direct support, but letting other people know just how awesome you are.
Thank you.
Good morning. First off, I just want to thank you so much for coming and sharing your experiences and your successes with us. You touched on something that I was very excited about coming to this summit to get some clarity and advice on. You talked about not bringing your full authentic self, and for me, when COVID hit and we were working from home, working remotely, I really saw how I had been carrying a lot, having to have code switch and deal with different microaggressions and being diminished, and it really ebbed away from my soul and did a lot of healing. And so I changed my perspective. So I just wanted to ask you guys, like, how do you deal with, not being able to, be your full, authentic self? How do you deal with that, emotionally and from a career perspective?
I'm glad you asked that question, because I want to clarify to everyone in this room, I did not say do not bring your full and authentic self to work. You need that for mental health and well-being, and yes, I think a lot of people went through a lot of different things in the pandemic, and we got to see people's dogs and people's kids and see them as, like human. So I don't mean it in that sense. What I mean is that all of the barriers and microaggressions and all of those things, they have not gone away, right? We're working on them, but they have not gone away. And so to your point, when you bring your authentic self to work, because you need to, you can only do it for so long. I mean, I can code switch with the best of them, but, I'll give you a really quick example. After, when everyone was doing town halls, after, again, George Floyd, we know there's thousands of names that go there, but that summer, I did a town hall, and I was talking about, we just talked really openly. It was the first time you could say black and white and these different words that we didn't say at work, and I said, yeah, it's just so annoying when you have to take down all the photographs when you get your house appraised, right? And I got tons of emails afterwards saying, what do you mean? And I thought the whole world knew that black people cannot. I thought white people knew that too. You can't have pictures of black people in your house when you get it appraised. You're just going to get a lower value, right? That was me not understanding, right, the audience. And it's not direct exactly to your point, but my point is you got to open your lens enough to know who your audience is and how you need to bring yourself to be successful. It doesn't mean that you're not being authentic. So I just want to clear that up.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Do we have time for one more?
Gotta make it quick. Ladies, thank you so much. My name is Cindy Ba, and I'm here in dual roles. I have a nonprofit that I founded 15 years ago called Determined to Educate, and I know you guys are really passionate about education. So far, we've worked with over 10,000 students and kids around the country, and I also work at American Express. So my question to you all is, what advice, I deal with so many young people and the fire, the streets are burning. What advice would you give to your younger self today?
Such a great question.
Yeah.
Tracy, do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I was pretty intense initially when, not that I'm not now, but I was pretty intense initially, because I felt felt, you know, in the roles that I was in, I had something to prove, and I did. And so, you know, a lot of things fell by the wayside, you know, friends, church, all of the sacrifices that you make, you know, when you're initially building your career. And so the advice I would give to my younger self is just ease up a bit. I mean, I have enjoyed so much, and my girls, I've got 2 daughters now, 26 and 30 almost. You know, when I had my daughters, that really gave me more balance and more perspective and allowed me to really enjoy a broader array of things. So that's the advice that I would give to my younger self.
Thank you. Lisa, do you
I agree with that, and I would also say, step out of your comfort zone. I think Tracy sort of said that, but take new assignments, do different things in the organization. Don't feel like you have to be pigeonholed. And I mean, what you just said, that you have your own nonprofit and you work, I mean, that's just gives you a whole nother set of skills. So I would say just get out of that comfort zone. The time to do that is when you are navigating your career. Maybe you go to different companies or different places in your organization and understand and know people who don't have the same experience and skill sets as you.
I would just add, for my younger self, I would say all of that hard work will pay off. And you will land at the top.
Love it.
All right, so first of all, how did we do?
Thank you.
I want to thank my friends Tracy and Lisa for such an empowering and powerful session. I look forward to being on a main stage with you all again, finding out what's next and what's new and how we can all learn from those next experiences. And I want to thank all of you for your time this morning and all of your positive, amazing energy, which helped us to give back to you. And I want you to have a tremendous experience here at this Women of Power Summit. You will really, really learn so much, make new friends, and go forth and just continue with your greatness. Thank you all.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you, Tracy, Lisa, and Rochelle. Let's give our panelists and our moderator another round of applause. And thank you, Venice and Dell, for hosting this great conversation. Yes.